The vast darkness of space held many secrets, but none quite as intriguing as the small blue planet that the Galactic Federation's survey ship had just discovered. Captain Reed of Earth would have laughed if he knew how the aliens classified his homeworld, a death world of all things. The Federation's science vessel, Light of Discovery, hovered at the edge of Earth's solar system. Its sleek, crystalline structure reflected the distant sunlight as the ship's sensors analyzed the third planet from the sun. Inside, the ship's crew, beings of various shapes and sizes, gathered around their main observation screen with a mixture of wonder and horror. "Impossible," muttered lead researcher Tom, his four eyes blinking rapidly as he reviewed the data, his thin, pale blue skin wrinkled with concern. "The gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared. The atmospheric pressure is crushing. The temperature variations are extreme. And the biodiversity. There are millions of species, many of them lethal." The ship's commander, a tall, willowy being named Alex, floated closer to the screen. "Yet look, there are signs of civilization. Advanced civilization, even. How can any species survive in such conditions, let alone thrive?" The sensors showed cities sprawling across continents, vehicles moving through the air and on the ground, and vast networks of communication and power distribution. But what truly puzzled the alien observers was the apparent peace and order they witnessed. "According to our preliminary scans," Tom continued, "these humans, as they call themselves, have mastered atomic power, achieved spaceflight, and developed global communication networks. But they're not using these technologies for warfare or dominance. They're using them for commerce and entertainment." The observation team spent weeks studying Earth from a distance. They watched humans go about their daily lives, working in offices, playing in parks, caring for their young. It seemed impossible that creatures evolved on such a harsh world could be so civilized. "Look at this," said one of the junior researchers, pointing to a screen showing the human city park. "They keep dangerous predators as companions." The image showed a human walking a dog, both seemingly happy and relaxed. Alex made a decision. "We've seen enough. These humans appear to have overcome their Deathworld origins. They've built a peaceful society despite evolving in conditions that should have made them savage. The Federation Council must be informed." The report sent back to the Galactic Federation painted a picture of a species that had achieved the impossible, transcending their violent planet to create harmony. The Council was intrigued. If humans could be rehabilitated from their Deathworld nature, perhaps they could teach other species how to do the same. 2 months later, a formal Federation delegation approached Earth. Their arrival was carefully orchestrated. A display of lights in the night sky, a peaceful landing in a neutral location, and a message of friendship broadcast globally. The humans' response surprised them. Instead of fear or aggression, they were met with curiosity and enthusiasm. World leaders gathered to greet them, and the media celebrated humanity's first contact with alien life. "Welcome to Earth," said the human representative, a diplomat named Mark. "We've been wondering when we'd meet our galactic neighbors." The Federation representatives were amazed by the humans' composure. Here they were, meeting beings from another world, and they acted as if they were greeting old friends at a casual gathering. What the Federation couldn't understand, was that they were seeing only what humans chose to show them. Deep beneath the surface of this peaceful first contact, military commands worldwide quietly went on high alert. Defense systems were activated but kept hidden. Contingency plans were put into motion, all while maintaining a perfectly peaceful appearance. The humans knew something the Federation would take years to learn. True peace wasn't about the absence of capability for violence. It was about the wisdom to choose when not to use it. As the first day of official contact drew to a close, both sides felt satisfied. The Federation believed they had found a successfully rehabilitated Deathworld species. The humans knew they had made a good first impression while maintaining their preparedness for any scenario. Neither side realized that this was just the beginning of a relationship that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of what it meant to be civilized, and what it meant to be truly strong. 3 months after first contact, the Galactic Federation's embassy on Earth had become a hub of constant activity. The massive crystal building stood tall in Geneva, its transparent walls reflecting the sunlight in rainbow patterns. Inside, aliens and humans moved about in what seemed like perfect harmony. Lead researcher Tom stood in the embassy's main hall, watching a group of human children tour the facility. His 4 eyes widened as one small child pointed at him and smiled, showing those strange bone-white teeth that humans had. Instead of running in fear, as most species younglings would do when seeing his alien form, the child waved. "Fascinating," he muttered, making notes on his datapad. Even their young show no fear response to unknown life forms. The Federation's integration project was moving faster than anyone had expected. Humans had already been invited to join several major Federation research projects. Their ability to think outside the box, a human phrase that Tom found quite clever, had led to breakthrough solutions in various fields. In one of the embassy's research labs, a human scientist named Jack worked alongside alien colleagues. They were studying ways to improve the Federation's space drive technology. While the aliens had superior theoretical knowledge, Jack's practical experience with harsh Earth conditions brought new perspectives to their work. "You see," Jack explained to his alien colleagues, pointing at an engine diagram, "if we add these backup systems here and here, the drive can keep working even if several parts fail. On Earth, we always plan for things to go wrong, because they usually do." The aliens found this approach strange, but couldn't argue with the results. Human-modified designs were proving more reliable and resilient than the originals. Meanwhile, in the Cultural Exchange Center, Federation representatives were learning about Earth's history and customs. They watched videos of human sports, arts, and celebrations. What amazed them most was how humans could engage in competitive activities without turning them into real conflicts. "They tackle each other in this rugby game," explained one alien analyst to another, "yet remain friends afterward. They even celebrate together. How can creatures from a Deathworld show such restraint?" The Federation scientists were particularly interested in human physiology. They conducted numerous studies, always amazed by the results. Humans could eat foods that would poison most species. They could survive in temperature ranges that would kill most Federation beings. Their bones would heal after breaking, and their skin would repair itself after injury. "Their entire biology is built for survival," Tom reported to the Federation Council via hologram. "Yet they channel these abilities into peaceful pursuits. They are living proof that even the harshest evolutionary background can be overcome." But not everything was going perfectly smooth. Some Federation species found humans unsettling. The way humans could suddenly appear behind them without making a sound, their habit of showing teeth when pleased, their ability to operate in low-light conditions, it all reminded them too much of apex predators. One day, a minor incident occurred that should have warned the Federation about human nature. A piece of heavy equipment broke loose in the embassy's loading dock, rolling toward a group of alien visitors. Before anyone could react, a human worker named Bob jumped forward, using his body to stop the equipment. He suffered several bruises, but saved the aliens from serious harm. The Federation representatives saw this as a touching example of human selflessness. What they missed was the lightning-fast calculation, the instant risk assessment, and the controlled application of force, all marks of a species that was far more than just peaceful. By the end of the first year of contact, the Federation had fully embraced humans as their newest members. Humans were invited to join Federation trade routes, scientific missions, and cultural programs. Everyone praised the successful integration of a Deathworld species into galactic society. In the embassy's secure communication room, Bob, the same worker who had stopped the runaway equipment, sent his weekly report to Earth's Unified Defense Command. Federation continues to underestimate human capabilities. Their technology is advanced but fragile. Their species have no concept of defense in depth. Recommendation: continue current approach while quietly preparing contingency plans. The report was acknowledged with a single word: approved. As the sun set over the Crystal Embassy, humans and aliens continued their dance of cooperation and exchange. The Federation remained blissfully unaware that they hadn't turned wolves into sheep. They had simply met wolves who had learned the value of peace, but hadn't forgotten how to fight. The peaceful routine at the Federation Embassy on Earth was interrupted by an urgent transmission. The massive screen in the main control room flickered to life, showing scenes of destruction from a distant colony world. The raiders had struck again. Lead researcher Tom watched the recording with all four of his eyes wide open. The raiders, a species from the outer rim of known space, had destroyed another peaceful settlement. Like shadows in the night, their black ships had appeared without warning, taking whatever they wanted and leaving only ruins behind. "This is the third attack this month," Commander Alex said, their willowy form trembling slightly. "The Federation Council still debates while our people suffer." In the corner of the room, Bob, the human security advisor, watched silently. His face showed no expression, but his eyes carefully studied every detail of the raiders' attack pattern. He had seen this before, in humanity's own history. These were not random attacks. This was a test of strength. Later that day, in a high-security meeting room, human representatives tried to warn the Federation officials. "You need to establish proper defense systems," explained James, Earth's military advisor. "Early warning networks, armed response ships, evacuation protocols." "We are a peaceful coalition," interrupted a Federation Council member, their crystalline form shimming with disapproval. "We will not lower ourselves to the ways of violence. The raiders will surely respond to diplomatic solutions." Bob exchanged a knowing look with James. They had seen this before. Peace through weakness never worked against predators. The next few weeks brought more bad news. The raiders grew bolder, attacking larger colonies and staying longer to plunder. The Federation's response remained the same: strongly worded messages and economic sanctions that the raiders simply ignored. In the embassy's gym, Bob was training with other human staff members. They maintained their exercise routines diligently, something that puzzled many Federation species. Why waste energy when there was no immediate threat? "They're getting closer," Bob said between push-ups. "The raiders hit a colony just 3 systems away from Earth yesterday." His colleague Mary nodded while doing pull-ups. "Command increased our readiness level this morning. All ships are on standby, but hidden in the outer solar system." The humans kept their military preparations secret from their Federation allies. Ships that the Federation thought were simple cargo vessels had weapon systems hidden behind false panels. Training exercises were disguised as entertainment sports. Every human in the Federation space knew their evacuation points and combat protocols. One evening, Tom found Bob studying the star maps in the embassy's library. "Such a peaceful pursuit," Tom said approvingly. "You humans truly have embraced the Federation's ways." Bob smiled politely. He didn't mention that he was actually analyzing possible raider attack vectors and planning defensive positions. The tension reached a new height when the raiders attacked a major Federation transport hub. The Federation's response ships arrived hours after the raiders had left, following their strict protocols of peaceful intervention. In a secure bunker deep beneath the embassy, Bob sent another encrypted message to Earth Command. "Raiders showing clear expansion pattern. Federation defense capabilities minimal. Recommend accelerated preparation of Protocol Dark Forest." The response came quickly: "Approved. But maintain cover. Federation must not know until necessary." During the next Federation Council meeting, the aliens discussed sending a peace delegation to the raiders. The human representatives sat quietly, their faces carefully neutral. Under the table, their hands were steady, but their muscles were tense, the coiled readiness of predators waiting to strike. "We must show them the benefits of peaceful cooperation," a council member declared proudly. None of the aliens noticed how the humans in the room exchanged quick glances. They didn't see the slight nod between Bob and James. They couldn't read the message in those seemingly peaceful human eyes. Not yet, but soon. As the meeting ended, Bob looked out the embassy window at the setting sun. Tomorrow, more colonies would likely be attacked. More innocent lives would be lost to the raiders. The Federation would send more strongly worded messages. But if the raiders made the mistake of attacking anywhere near Earth or its colonies, they would learn why humans came from a death world. The wolves had been patient, but their teeth were sharp, and their mercy had limits. The Federation was about to learn that true strength wasn't in denying violence, but in knowing when its use became necessary. The Joint Human Federation colony on New Hope was everything the Federation stood for: peaceful, prosperous, and welcoming to all species. Located just 2 systems away from Earth, it housed 50,000 beings from across the galaxy. Crystal spires rose from carefully tended gardens, and children of different species played together in the parks. Bob stood at his security station in the colony's control center, monitoring the deep space sensors. His human colleagues were scattered throughout the colony, disguised as regular workers but always ready. They all knew this place was too tempting a target for the raiders to ignore. "Another beautiful day on New Hope," said Tom, who had come to study human-alien cooperation in the colony. All 4 of his eyes were bright with joy as he watched the morning activities through the control room's windows. The attack warning came at midday. First, the deep space sensors went dark. Then communication arrays started failing one by one. Bob watched as black ships appeared on the emergency backup scanners, dozens of them, moving fast toward the colony. Federation Security Command. "This is New Hope Colony," the alien communications officer called. "Raiders approaching. Request immediate assistance." The response came quickly. "Maintain peaceful protocols. A diplomatic team is being assembled. Estimated arrival time: 6 hours. Bob's face hardened. 6 hours. The raiders would reduce the colony to ashes in one. He pressed a hidden button under his console, sending a prearranged signal. The raiders struck like a thunderbolt. Their black ships descended from the sky, their weapons already firing. The colony's shields, designed for weather protection, not combat, failed in seconds. "Initiate emergency evacuation protocols," Ton shouted, his pale blue skin almost white with fear. "Get everyone to the shelters." But the raiders had done this before. They blocked the main evacuation routes, herding the colonists into the central plaza. Their warriors, tall figures in black armor, moved through the crowds, taking what they wanted and destroying what they couldn't carry. Tom watched in horror as the raiders rounded up colonists for slave labor. Where is the Federation response? Why isn't anyone helping? Bob stood silently at his post, watching the carnage. His hands were steady on his console, but his eyes were hard as steel. He was counting down in his head. A raider commander strode into the control center, weapons ready. No resistance. He growled in broken Federation standard. "Smart choice." Tom tried to reason with them. "We are a peaceful colony. We can negotiate." The raider laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. "Peace is weakness," he said, raising his weapon. That's when everything changed. A single tone sounded throughout the colony, a sound that meant nothing to the aliens but everything to the humans present. In an instant, Bob's peaceful demeanor vanished. His hand moved with shocking speed, and suddenly he held a compact weapon that had been hidden in his seemingly harmless workstation. Before the raider commander could react, Bob had moved. The weapon made a quiet cough, and the raider collapsed. Similar scenes played out across the colony as hidden human security personnel emerged from their covers. "All units, execute Protocol Dark Forest," Bob spoke into his communicator, his voice calm but carrying an edge that made Tom shiver. "Protect the civilians. No raiders leave atmosphere." From hidden bays and innocent-looking cargo containers, human combat ships rose into the sky. They were smaller than the raider vessels, but moved with deadly precision. The raiders, caught completely by surprise, found themselves facing an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. In the control center, Tom watched in shock as Bob coordinated the defense with cold efficiency. This was not the peaceful human he had known. This was something else, a predator from a death world, revealing its true nature. "I don't understand," Tom whispered. "You were so peaceful." "Peace," Bob replied, his eyes never leaving the tactical display, "is a choice we make every day. Today, we choose differently." Above the colony, the raiders learned too late that they had made a terrible mistake. They had attacked a human-protected world, and now they would learn why Earth was called a death world. The Federation's diplomatic team would arrive in 5 hours, but by then, there would be nothing left to negotiate. The wolves had been pushed too far, and now they were hunting. The skies above New Hope Colony blazed with combat that the galaxy hadn't seen in centuries. Human ships, their peaceful facades dropped, revealed weapon systems that made the raiders' technology look primitive in comparison. Tom watched from the control center, all 4 of his eyes unable to blink as he witnessed humans transform from peaceful allies into efficient warriors. Bob stood at the command console, his voice calm but carrying authority that hadn't existed minutes before. "Strike Group Alpha, box them in from above. Beta Group, cut off their escape vectors," Bob ordered. "No raider ship leaves this system." The human ships moved with practiced precision. Their formations weren't random. They were executing battle plans prepared long ago, just waiting for this moment. In the colony streets, the change was even more dramatic. The seemingly peaceful human colonists had become warriors in an instant. Hidden weapons appeared from everyday tools. Work clothes transformed into basic armor with a few quick adjustments. A group of raiders found themselves trapped in the main plaza, surrounded by humans who moved with predatory grace. The raiders' confidence vanished as they realized their usual tactics of intimidation meant nothing to these opponents. "How?" the raider commander demanded, watching his ships fall one by one to the human fleet. "You were peaceful. Weak." Bob's reply was cold. "We chose peace. You mistook that for weakness." He pressed another button on his console. "Now you learn the difference." From Earth's direction, new ships appeared. Warships that had been waiting quietly in the shadow of nearby planets. They were larger than anything the Federation had seen before, their designs purely military. The Federation's response fleet, finally arriving, could only watch in shock. "This is Admiral Dan of the Earth Defense Fleet," a new voice announced on all channels. "All Federation ships stay clear. We will handle this threat." Tom's translator implant couldn't quite convey the predatory satisfaction in the Admiral's voice, but something in it made his spine tingle with ancient fear. The battle, if it could even be called that, was devastatingly one-sided. Human ships moved with coordinated precision that spoke of centuries of warfare experience. Their weapons were precise and overwhelming. Raiders who surrendered were taken prisoner. Those who resisted disappeared in brief flashes of light. In the colony's medical center, human doctors worked with incredible efficiency, treating the injured with skills that showed they were well practiced in dealing with combat wounds. Their movements were quick and sure, saving lives with the same precision their warriors took them. "I don't understand," Tom said, watching Bob coordinate the ground teams. "All those exercise routines, the daily training, were never just for health," Bob finished. "Every human in Federation space is a trained emergency responder at minimum. Most of us are military reserves." The Federation Response Fleet's commander, watching the humans fight, finally understood what they had missed. Humans hadn't evolved beyond their death world nature. They had mastered it, controlled it, and kept it ready. Within an hour, the battle was over. The Raiders' fleet was destroyed or captured. Their ground forces were eliminated or in custody. The human ships moved through the debris, making sure no threats remained. Admiral Dan's flagship landed at the colony's main port. He walked out to meet Bob and the Federation representatives, his bearing powerful but controlled. Behind him, more human ships emerged from hyperspace, an entire battle fleet that had been hidden but ready. "Status report," the admiral demanded. "Colony secured," Bob reported. "Minimal civilian casualties. Raider threat eliminated. We've taken prisoners for interrogation." Tom noticed how the other Federation species moved back slightly from the humans. Now they could see what had always been there: the controlled power, the warrior's stance, the predator's awareness. "We hope," Admiral Dan addressed the Federation representatives, "that this demonstrates why we've been advising stronger defensive measures." The Federation members could only nod. They were seeing humans clearly for the first time, not as rehabilitated Deathworlders, but as apex predators who had chosen to be peaceful without losing their claws. As rescue ships arrived and cleanup began, Tom looked at Bob, who was already organizing recovery efforts. "You could have told us," he said quietly. "Would you have understood?" Bob asked. "Sometimes the only way to maintain peace is to be very, very good at war." The Federation would have many questions in the days to come, but one thing was clear: they had not tamed a Deathworld species. They had simply never seen what humans were truly capable of until now. 1 week after the Battle of New Hope Colony, the Federation Council called an emergency session. The Grand Council chamber, usually a place of calm debate, now buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from 50 alien species gathered to discuss what many were calling the human question. Lead researcher Tom stood at the presentation podium, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly as he addressed the council. Behind him, screens showed footage from the battle that had changed everything. "We fundamentally misunderstood humans," Tom began. "What we saw as a rehabilitated species was actually a civilization that had mastered both peace and war." The screens shifted to show human military history, ancient battles, modern conflicts, and space warfare exercises played in sequence. The Federation representatives watched with growing amazement. "Their entire history is filled with warfare," Tom continued. "But here's what we missed. They didn't evolve past it. They learned to control it. Every human child learns both how to fight and when not to." In the observers section, Bob sat quietly with Admiral Dan. They watched as the Federation species tried to process what they were learning about their human allies. "Look at this," Tom said, displaying images of human martial arts dojos. "What we thought were simple exercise rooms are actually combat training centers. Every human colony has them." The screen showed more revelations: Olympic sports that doubled as combat training, video games that were actually military simulators, and children's games that taught tactical thinking. Their entertainment, their sports, their daily exercises. Everything serves 2 purposes, Tom explained. They maintain their warrior skills while living peaceful lives. A Federation Council member raised a trembling appendage. "But their cities, their art, their music, they seemed so peaceful." Admiral Dan stood up to answer. His voice carried easily through the chamber. "We are peaceful, but peace is a choice we make from strength, not weakness. Every human city has defense plans. Every human ship has hidden weapons. Every human you've met is trained in basic combat." The council chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Security footage from New Hope played again, showing how quickly humans had switched from peaceful colonists to efficient warriors. "Their ships," Tom continued, displaying diagrams. "What we thought were simple transport vessels are actually warships in disguise. Every human settlement in Federation space has a hidden military component." The screen showed human ships transforming. Peaceful panels sliding away to reveal weapon systems, cargo bays converting into fighter launch tubes, and civilian crews moving with military precision. "Even their games," Tom added, showing children playing sports. "What looks like simple recreation actually teaches combat skills. Their popular paintball game is really small unit tactical training." Bob stepped forward to join Admiral Dan. "We tried to warn you about the raiders," he said. "We saw the signs because we've seen them before in our own history. Predators only respect strength." The council members watched new footage. Human special forces efficiently eliminating raider resistance, combat medics saving both friend and foe, and prisoners being treated with firm but ethical handling. "This is what we missed most," Tom said. "Humans don't just know how to fight. They know how to fight with honor. They have rules of warfare, codes of conduct, and strict ethical guidelines even in combat." Admiral Dan nodded. "We chose to be peaceful members of the Federation, but we never chose to be defenseless. There's a human saying, 'If you want peace, prepare for war.'" The council chamber was silent as the final footage played. Human ships now openly patrolling Federation space, their true nature no longer hidden. The raiders had gone silent, avoiding any system with a human presence. "We must now decide," Tom concluded, "how to proceed with our understanding of humans. They are not the simple Deathworlders we thought we had rehabilitated. They are warriors who chose peace, predators who chose restraint, but never lost their ability to fight." As the council began their deliberations, Bob turned to Admiral Dan. "Do you think they'll understand?" The Admiral watched the nervous council members. "They don't need to understand completely. They just need to understand enough that humanity stands ready to defend peace through strength." The Federation was learning that real peace wasn't the absence of violence. It was having the strength to prevent it, the wisdom to avoid it, and the power to end it when necessary. Humanity had mastered all three. 1 month after the revelations about human nature, the Galactic Federation had changed. The once purely peaceful halls of the Geneva Embassy now hosted a new kind of activity. In the building's newly established Defense Training Center, Federation species learned from human instructors. Bob stood before a mixed group of aliens, including Tom, teaching basic security protocols. The former researcher had requested to join the first training class, his 4 eyes now focused on understanding humans in a completely new way. "Security isn't about being aggressive," Bob explained, demonstrating a defensive stance. "It's about being prepared. Just like humans don't look for fights, but we're always ready for them." In orbit above Earth, Admiral Dan led a tour of a human warship for Federation military officials. The vessel's true nature was now openly displayed. Weapon systems, armor, and battle stations no longer hidden behind peaceful facades. "Your ships are amazing," a Federation commander admitted, running their sensor appendage over a battle screen. "They can switch from peaceful trade to combat operations in seconds." The Admiral smiled. "That's humanity's greatest strength. We don't have to choose between being peaceful or being strong. We can be both." Back on New Hope Colony, the reconstruction showed another side of human nature. The same warriors who had fought so fiercely now worked tirelessly to rebuild. Human engineering teams had restored most systems within weeks, making them better and stronger than before. Tom watched a group of human children playing in the rebuilt park. They were teaching alien children a game that looked like simple tag, but actually taught evasion and spatial awareness. "I finally understand," Tom said to Bob, who had finished his training session. "You didn't overcome your Deathworld nature. You mastered it." Bob nodded. "Look at those kids. They're having fun, but they're also learning. Everything we do serves multiple purposes. We play sports to stay fit for combat. We study history to learn strategy. We practice arts to improve focus." In the Federation Council chamber, a new treaty was being discussed. The Human Defense Initiative would create a joint military force, with humans training other species in defense while learning from their allies' peaceful achievements. "We propose a middle path," the human ambassador explained to the council. "Not pure pacifism, which invites predators. Not constant warfare, which destroys civilizations. Instead, we offer peace through strength." The Federation leaders had seen the wisdom in this approach. The raiders had vanished from Federation space, seeking easier targets beyond the human patrol zones. Other hostile species had suddenly become interested in diplomatic solutions. In the embassy's new combat training room, a young alien asked Bob a question that many still wondered about. "Aren't you tired of always being ready for war?" Bob smiled while helping the alien adjust their defensive stance. Being prepared isn't the same as being paranoid. We enjoy peace more deeply because we know we can protect it. We appreciate quiet moments because we train for loud ones. The changes spread throughout Federation space. Human architects helped redesign colonies with hidden defenses. Human teachers shared their tradition of martial arts, teaching both combat skills and spiritual discipline. Human doctors taught both healing and combat medicine. Admiral Dan, watching a joint human-alien fleet exercise, spoke to the Federation commanders. "The galaxy is beautiful, but not always kind. We'll help you stay peaceful by being strong enough that no one dares disturb that peace." In the rebuilt streets of New Hope Colony, humans and aliens walked together with new understanding. The aliens no longer flinched at humans' predatory grace. Instead, they saw it as a shield protecting them all. Tom, now a student of both human peace and human strength, wrote his final report to the Federation Council. Humans never needed rehabilitation from their Deathworld origins. They needed us to understand that true civilization isn't about removing the capacity for violence. It's about choosing when to use it and when to hold back. They are living proof that you can be both peaceful and powerful. As the sun set over the Geneva embassy, Bob watched his alien students practice their defensive moves. Tomorrow, they would learn about art and music. The day after, they would study strategy and tactics. This was the human way, all things in balance. The Federation had finally understood. Humans weren't tame Deathworlders. They were creatures who had learned to master both peace and war, and in doing so, had become the galaxy's most qualified protectors. Peace would reign in Federation space, not because its people were incapable of violence, but because they had learned from humanity when to use it wisely and when to choose peace instead.